Hello and welcome to another TLDR US video. In the last few days, President Trump has submitted a formal notice that the United States will be withdrawing from the World Health Organization in July 2021. This move comes after months of hints and threats from Trump that he would leave the organization if certain changes were not made, and it seems that the president plans to actually follow through with those threats. So in this video, we'll take a look at why the US is leaving, as well as the effect this will have on the WHO, the US, and other member countries. We'll also look at how Trump's opponent for the presidency, Joe Biden, has responded. Before we start, please consider supporting this channel on Patreon. We're currently trying to create more content on this channel, and with your support, we can dedicate more time and effort towards US content. And in return for your donation, you'll get early access to some videos, behind the scenes posts, the ability to vote on video topics, and more. Check out what you can get and donate by clicking the link below. On Tuesday, the US gave formal notice that it will be leaving the World Health Organization on the 6th of July 2021. Trump has had long-standing issues with the body ever since the outbreak of the coronavirus. A lot of this frustration felt by Trump and his administration is rooted in deeper issues with China, as they believe that China hid information about the outbreak and that the WHO hasn't done enough to investigate these accusations. The president and administration officials have also suggested that China has total control over the World Health Organization and that the WHO is scared to criticize China. As China has risen as a global power, its influence in the WHO does seem to have risen. Critics have levelled the same accusations at China in recent years as they used to about the United States, arguing that it has far too much control over the working of the World Health Organization. And while this is a genuine concern that other countries share, it's clear that this objection to China's participation in the WHO is part of a wider tension between the US and China that's been bubbling over since the start of the Trump presidency. And let's be honest, China has been Trump's #1 target since he entered office. One of his key concerns as president has been China's rising status in the world, and what the US can do to combat this and stay as the world's only leading superpower. He's had a continued, well-publicized trade war, even recently indicating that he may completely cut economic ties with China, and this rhetoric has been a key component of the conflict. But the coronavirus crisis has allowed him another angle to pit the US against its rival. Despite early praise about China's work on tackling the virus, Trump has been vehemently critical of the WHO and China for what he sees as them enabling the virus to spread globally. This may be, at least in part, a political stunt to save his reputation, something that we'll touch on shortly. Trump gave warning of this potential abandonment in April, when he halted funding for 30 days to try and force the World Health Organization to make the changes that he sought. Once this period was over, he made the announcement of US withdrawal, which became more formal this week. Some, particularly Democrats, have raised questions about whether Trump can legally withdraw the US from the World Health Organization without the approval of Congress. Some, such as Lawrence O. Gostin, a global health lawyer, have called the move a non-starter without the approval of Congress. This debate is very murky, but it does look as though the president has full authority to withdraw. However, due to a joint resolution passed by Congress in 1948, the withdrawal cannot be completed for a year, which gives critics time to oppose and possibly reverse the decision. Although brought on by current events, this is clearly part of a wider campaign of withdrawal from international agreements that's been the calling card of the Trump administration since Election Day, and even since the start of his election campaign. After all, under Trump's leadership in the last 4 years, the US has left several UN bodies and initiatives, including the Human Rights Council and the Paris Climate Accord, as well as others, such as the Iran nuclear deal. Almost all other nations have clearly opposed the US's action to move away from the World Health Organization. The only country which has publicly supported the US is Brazil, led by Bolsonaro, who was recently diagnosed as positive for the coronavirus, and like President Trump, has been quite skeptical of the virus in general. And this international reaction is because many nations and experts feel that the World Health Organization is a force for good, but it's not without its faults. On its website, the WHO gives 6 core functions of its work: Some of the most important include leadership on global health issues, guiding research and sharing research, and monitoring global health trends. It has been heavily criticised in the past for being too bureaucratic and slow in decision making, mired by its own inner complexities. These problems have affected how it's been able to achieve its functions and goals. For example, it's been blamed for a slow response to the outbreak of the Ebola virus in 2014. Some have even indicated that if it had acted quicker, it could have prevented the disease from killing so many. It's even been alleged that President Obama and his team went over the heads of the World Health Organization to work out how to deal with the outbreak in conjunction with other countries. Critics in the current crisis have again leveled this complaint at the World Health Organization, saying that quicker global advice and action could have saved countless lives over the last few months. Regardless of these flaws, there is no other organization with the information, collaboration, and ability to respond in the time of crisis better than the World Health Organization. Regardless, Trump's made it clear that they're going to leave. So what effect would this have on the WHO? The United States is the body's largest voluntary donor, making this withdrawal a big hit financially, in addition to the expertise that the US can and does provide. In total, combining its compulsory fee plus all voluntary donations, in 2018 the US gave $893 million. This is more than double the next most generous country, the UK, which gave a total of $435 million in the same time period. Though it is worth taking into account the fact that the UK has far fewer citizens. Regardless, the US certainly is the biggest contributor, which means that it would be very difficult for other members to make up such a sizable loss in revenue. That means that immediately all projects, whether responding to current crises or planning for the future mitigation of disease, will be harmed. The health advice provided to all countries in the midst of this current pandemic has been invaluable for slowing down the spread of COVID-19, but the research informs that this guidance will obviously be stunted by the US's move. Not to mention the search for a vaccine that will become much more difficult without one of the key leaders of this collective effort. And it's not just COVID. The initiative to eradicate polio has been thriving, and the disease is close to being eradicated. Therefore, there are major fears that all of this hard work could be undone with the removal of US support. The World Health Organization also led the charge against smallpox in the 20th century, culminating in the eradication of the disease in 1979. Evidently, it's a very crucial organisation in the global fight against health issues. But, as we've repeatedly mentioned, Trump feels as though the World Health Organization is under too great an influence from China. But withdrawing the US's involvement with the World Health Organization, according to Jeff Merkley, the leader of the relevant Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee, Trump is only strengthening China's international status by allowing it to become a more influential leader in the WHO. There are also fears that the move will impact the world's poorer countries, who rely more on international cooperation than some other countries, such as the US, who could fund larger health research projects than most. There are also worries about the new way that an independent US would operate in the fight against global disease, and that it could lead to confusion and more problems if it's seen to be effectively competing against the World Health Organization. But is the US's withdrawal really all about China? Or is this more about Trump's attempt to hide his own administration's deficiencies? At this point, the US has had over 130,000 COVID-related deaths, by far the most globally. Of course, higher death numbers are natural in countries as large as the US, but critics say that it's far higher than was ever necessary. Therefore, many feel that Trump is using the World Health Organization as a scapegoat to try and hide from his own country's COVID-19 problems and other political issues, such as the recent Black Lives Matter protests going on in the US. Trump's accusation that the World Health Organization and China are colluding to cover up the outbreak in China is not based in evidence, which is why many reckon that he's just using this line of attack to push the spotlight and criticism away from his own administration. Perhaps Trump's effort to move the blame around is because it's in the crucial election year, with Joe Biden holding a strong lead in the polls. Speaking of Biden, how has he responded to the administration's announcement that it will be withdrawing from the World Health Organization? Well, shortly after the withdrawal was announced, Biden tweeted that Americans are safer when America is engaged in strengthening global health. On my first day as president, I will rejoin the WHO and restore our leadership on the world stage. Clearly, this is the polar opposite move of what Trump wants. Biden talks of working together with other countries in an international institution, something which the Trump administration has tried to move away from day one. And at the current rate, with Biden looking more likely to become the 46th president, and America only able to leave the World Health Organization next July, the US may never actually end up leaving. What do you think? Should the US continue to fund organizations like the World Health Organization, or is it better off going alone? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, you can get involved over on Discord. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified every time we release a video. You can also find more from us across all social networks simply by searching for TLDR News. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible.